Um, Hi, my name is Melanie. I'm going to be talking about my representational analysis piece of artwork. For my representational analysis, I made a map, or I kind of tried to model it after like a subway map of Manhattan and the Bronx. There's just like the Harlem River between it right here. And yeah, so then this is the Bronx and this is Manhattan. Um, So I really wanted to try to depict the dichotomies between the two areas. So Manhattan as an area has a much different connotation than the Bronx. It is famously known as one of the greatest cities in the world, and people visit from all over, but neglect to understand the ways in which the cycles of poverty in poorer areas of New York are perpetuated. This connects to the Greenbaum reading, Debunking the Pathology of Poverty, in which Greenbaum addresses that the cycle of poverty is perpetuated by those in the wealthiest classes, driven by greed. So I kind of tried to show that here. I don't know, Broadway is a really big thing there, and I know that's a multi-million-dollar industry. And then, there's also, the stock market on Wall Street. That's, a really big financial area, and so that has a lot to do with, different cycles that are creating the oppression for people in the Bronx. So these, the people that are on the top, who would probably live on the Upper East Side or in the financial district, they're not aware of, or maybe they just don't care about the poorest congressional districts in the area, such as the South Bronx, the East Tremont area. And so they often create and uphold a system in which one group benefits and one is exploited. So another example in the book is that Kozol discusses how a waste incinerator that burns body parts and medical waste was built in the East Tremont area and was supposed to be built on the Upper East Side, but then the people there protested due to their concern for the health of their growing children. So that really shows the privileges that exist for the people that live in Manhattan versus the Bronx. And I think another important point is Kozol's positionality in relation to the group that he was studying. I think that's also noteworthy. I do think it's admirable that he took the time to go to the neighborhood and see the injustices firsthand, but he was still able to return to Manhattan at the end of the day, while the families that he spoke to would have to continue to suffer. And also, having lived a privileged life myself, I can empathize with the injustices faced by those in the book, but I truly don't know what it's like to be in poverty, and I never will. I remember that one day in class it was mentioned that someone felt like they did not know what to do with the guilt that they have, and I related to that a lot because I think it can be difficult to have the tools to bridge the gap between two places so distinctly different, especially because the privileges that I do have and the privileges that people, on the Manhattan side, I guess if we're relating it to my thing, the privileges are the result of the direct exploitation of the other, which is the subordinate group. And this concept was discussed in Miller's reading Domination and Subordination, which, just talked about, the distinction between, how one class or one group of people is able to benefit from the exploitation of another in order to keep them on top. And that relates back to the thing I said in the Debunking the Pathology of Poverty, that's the top classes are the ones creating that system. I think overall, in reading a book like this, it's important to understand how you can use your own privileges to dismantle these systems of oppression. And most likely this will need to have an entire paradigm shift that will take power away from those at the top and distribute it to those at the bottom. So I just have some things like the buildings burning and how there's no rooms in the hospital. That's definitely something that is really bad in a neighborhood where there's such high instances of drug use and such high instances of AIDS, because then he also mentioned in the book how it's makes people not want to go to the hospitals because they're more likely to get sick if they're in an environment such as that. And then lastly, I kind of just added the Statue of Liberty, which has the inscription, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." And I think that that's kind of ironic, that that's such a big part of New York's history, but then here we have the tired, the poor, and the huddled masses, a 30-minute subway ride away, and nothing's being done. I think this assignment made me think more just about my own privilege and positionality and how I can take the information that I've learned and what I can do with it later, and how maybe people in other areas could do something to change. Maybe, I guess, Manhattan in this case could do something to change the injustices that are happening so close to their own homes. Thank you.